welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Getting things started this morning. I see a few people made it on in bright and early. Make sure you hit the like button on the way in. We're about to get this thing started. All right, all right. Had to do a countdown as I got a few things together. Had to get a few things figured out. I got to make a longer countdown than that. I like that countdown. It's very effective and very useful. It helps me when I'm getting things still set up bright and early. It helps me out. But I just sent Ike the link, so Ike will be joining us momentarily. But I would like to thank everybody who made it on in. Make sure you hit the like button as you come in. We're about to get this thing going. I think Ike is already in the back chat. I think I see him down there. And let's roll.
Peace, folks. This is X from TPOT Media. Open your mind and wake your black ass up. You know what time it is. Hit that damn like button as you make your way in the door. Grab a seat, settle in, get ready. It's the Grown Man Hour with your host, my man, Bernard Riley.
All right. Lots of unforced errors. I accidentally cut my intro short by accident because I made it down too early. I made it back too early and I cut the intro short. Lots of unforced errors this morning. But we're going to get it together. We're going to make it work. Going to make it happen. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up Ike to come and save me. Come and save me from myself this morning.
Hello, Bernard. How's it going?
Not good, man. I keep messing up this morning. I haven't had so many behind the scenes mistakes you didn't see, then had some on-screen mistakes. But either way, we are here. We are in the building. Shout out to Daryl L in the building. He says, peace to the chat. And the BR and Ike. Ike came through early with the comment. Aaron B in the building. Genuine trucker Tony in the building. Shout out to you. And Ephraim McKenzie. Shout out to you. Shout out to you. Shout out to everybody that made it in bright and early with the first few comments. Appreciate all of you. And we are obviously joined by Ike, Key Business Podcast in the building. Shout out to you. Obviously joined by Ike. Is that a real fireplace going on back there? Yeah, it looks like look very warm in that room in the background, man.
It's not that big a fire.
Like from my vantage point, man, it looked like it's a full blazing fire over there from the little slot you got open. but what's going on, man? How has your week been? What's Ike been up to?
I've been, let me say, getting back in monk mode. Now I have to define what that is.
Yeah, you do.
But basically getting my diet back in gear, getting my hydration, getting my sleep, my focus, my meditation, my 14-hour work weeks, just getting a certain kind of disciplined routine back. So while in Africa, you're more likely to have desserts with people, because you're meeting people. One thing you do when you travel is meet people, and then you get into social gatherings, and it is appropriate, I even think, to kind of let loose a little bit, right? That's the whole kind of point. And then now for the past week and a half, just like, okay, let me get back. And I think typically I give myself a month to really get on like 100% Super Saiyan mode again. But yeah, that's that. Well, how about yourself? You mentioned making all these unforced errors. There are superstitions about that, which are actually correct. You know them, right?
I don't believe in superstitions. So
I know, but you know that when you allow one of these closet, whatever you call us, closet atheist slash deep philosophical, whatever you said, but you see, if you really look at that superstition, but really though, because superstitions a lot of times just come from intuitions, and we hear the most ridiculous ones sometimes, but this one makes sense. It's like if you're coming outside of your hut in the morning and you trip, don't go anywhere. It says, right? It's a bad omen, but it's true, because if you think about it, when you're making mistakes, it's not like it's coming out of nowhere. It's a state of mind and body that day, right? Mm-hmm. That's causing you to be making these mistakes, right? So if you wake up with a state of mind and body such that you trip outside your own front door, you're likely to make mistakes outside in the world. And you're talking about a dangerous world. Maybe you live in the forest. That might lead to you. In other words, it's better just stay in. Even if you don't understand what the superstition is about, if you trip when you're coming out your hut, just go back in.
I don't buy it. You could trip on your way out of that hut and walk right into, walk a mile and stumble right into a situation where, I don't know, somebody said, "You're the lucky guy who I'm going to give $1 million to today." You never. It's so.
Yeah. Take your chances, right? That's the whole point of the superstition is here's the safe bet. But if you understand it, then you can be like, okay, but at least watch yourself if you're making unforced errors, right?
Yeah, it's time. And then that's where it comes back to a practical application of things. Mm-hmm. I've made a lot of mistakes early this morning. Going forward, I need to really pay attention. Some of the mistakes probably weren't my fault. Some of them more than likely was. So that's just telling me that I'm just walking around a zombie on autopilot, tripping over everything, setting things up wrong, went and typed a bunch of errors on the computer screen. I'm not proofreading. I'm not checking nothing. I'm not doing anything that I'm supposed to be doing. So let me just slap myself, drink some coffee, splash some hot water on my face, and start paying attention. That's basically what it tells me. From a practical standpoint, you need to get more order, as you say. You need to get more order in what you're doing. But as far as the superstition aspect of it, I don't. Superstition is a form of religion, and not the better aspect of religion that you talk about, because you talk about it when you talk about it from the I guess the grandiose type of way that we were talking a few times, and you've explained it a few other ways, the story and all. When you talk about it, it's like, okay, I can understand that. But when you're talking about a disembodied supernatural thing having some causal effect on the physical world, and in some way it's revolving around you and you tripping on the way out the door. That's where I was like, I can't go. Can't
Cannot
go.
go.
I cannot go with that one. But hold on, I'm hearing background noise from somewhere. I
Um,
think I
am
think
I
that was my
echoing?
phone. No, my cell phone. The
Okay.
volume was on like 2 or something like
Mhm.
that. So that's where it was coming from. But I couldn't quite hear it. Couldn't quite hear it. Shout out to Jamak in the building, Omega Dreads in the building. Shout out to Dejmatic. I don't. That's probably not how you say that. It's probably not how you say that. But shout out to you, man. Like Ike with the gamer chair. I need one of those chairs because I don't need one of those chairs. I need a chair that forces me to sit up like this. My chair does not have the thing that makes it come up. My chair
Yeah.
is made to lean back, and that's not a good look on the air.
This thing has both of these. You know the lumbar support thing.
Uh huh.
It has one up here, and then it has one below for the lumbar, and then here, so you can kind of put, and it slides like on this belt like thing, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also it's very sturdy, the back. So I like to sit
Mm-hmm.
straight. So this was like the perfect for me. I put it all the way vertical, put those things there, boom, ready to go.
Yeah. I noticed with Kevin Samuel's chair, his chair is up completely, completely 90-degree angle, and that's how you want to sit when you're on the air.
Especially when you're over 6 feet, right?
Yeah.
When you got to watch your back when you're tall. You got to make sure that that thing
Yeah.
stays for the long haul.
Right. I never asked your height, not that it matters that much, but men talk about that in this space. How tall are you?
I'm 6'4".
Okay, so you're a tall guy. I think I heard you say that before. So you're a tall guy. So per manosphere doctrine, you always did well with the ladies, whether you had money or not, because you were 6'4". Per manosphere
That,
dogma, you were.
that's the story.
you,
But in reality, though, like that it gives you certain advantages in all kinds of things. Like
yeah.
I was having a conversation with someone yesterday. It's only so much that whole women thing can do for you, but there's a reason why CEOs tend to be taller than average, right?
Mm-hmm.
It gives you advantage everywhere.
Yeah. That's why I don't like when people try to deny it. And this goes back to a little theory I have, to where most of the critics of this space, they're not really critics of this space. They're really just arguing with Obsidian because Obsidian makes every argument under the sun about how being short is a disadvantage, and people want to deny the reality, even though he's coming from a personal spot. Sometimes it's like, okay, we don't want to hear you rant and rave about your personal problems, but yes, it's true that being short is a disadvantage. It is an absolute disadvantage in so many ways. And some people want to go out their way to try to disagree or refute what he's saying, to the point to where they start making stupid arguments, and then he doubles down and gets on the echo box, and then it just turns into a big back and forth where it's entertaining. Some good good points come out of it, don't get me wrong. And but yeah, no, it's clearly an advantage, whether we're talking socially, professionally, business, so it's across the board. It's a reason why most presidents are taller than the average, whatever the average height is. Presidents are taller than that. So yeah, we do know that height matters. Before we get into the topic, another thing I always wanted to ask you, I heard somebody threw this question out there. I found it to be a weird question, but I mean, I know you're you're the type of person, you're going to take it in stride and answer it. Somebody said, with you growing up in Africa, in Nigeria, um, having the skin complexion, being albino, um, someone asked the question, what did that do for you as far as Well, they centered it towards the women, because this, this is manosphere. All we talk about is women. So they centered the question around the women, and then someone was trying to ask the broader question about just overall social interactions. But the first thing that people wanted to know is the women in Africa, you being albino, and because the perception is that anybody who's has light skin out there, or they're just viewed as a god walking around everyone else. So
Hmm.
speak on that, because the conversation that was being had in the chat about you one day, I don't know if you were reading it, but it was interesting. It was kind of ignorant, but it was some things in there to make you say, hmm. So what was that experience like coming up? Because I know once you make it to a certain status in your life, which you have, it wouldn't matter at that point. Either whether it was a benefit, whether it was a deficit or a benefit, it wouldn't matter because you've reached a certain status. But
Yeah. So when you mentioned walking around like a god, it is more the opposite, right? The opposite is more true, and then it can go from certain extremes which people talk about, which is using albinos for rituals and stuff like that.
mm,
And that's in certain parts of, let's say, Tanzania or something like that. And even in the country where that kind of thing might go on. It's almost like you can go to certain corners of America where you can find just about anything. If you go looking for something, like, I wonder if there's a place, where people eat rattlesnakes for as some kind of, you'll be able to find these people. But
right.
there are extremes, and from old superstition, again, that thing, right, which can go in bad directions, but it's mainly just intuition without certain conceptual language, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go down that route per se. But all the way from using their body parts as sacrifice, which is the interpretation of your godlike thing, right? It's, oh, that's a god, but hey, I hear that, his left leg will make me rich or something if I give it to the, anyways. Then there's,
He said his left leg will make me rich. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
so, in addition to that, there's just a typical kind of like stigma of difference, right? If you're different, right?
Yeah.
So, and kids are mean. So you take these three into consideration. You have this kind of superstitious / whatever difference, and then kids being mean. You're gonna have the typical experience, which I need not elaborate upon since we're all human beings, right?
Yes.
But there is an inherent advantage if if only one takes it, right? In that kind of situation writ large, in any kind of general situation whereby there's some difference and there's ostracization or whatever. Because for me, I immediately learned something about the vacuous nature of social interactions. Like, it's like people and their groups. Because what the first, it's like when you notice people ganging up against you in a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not thinking, right? you
That's true.
so you see that they're just kind of, it's like a blanket over there. It's like, oh, there's this warm blanket and fireplace. They want to be part of it. They don't want to be out here in the cold, right? Where I am, and with the person that they're ostracizing or something like that. If you are observant, and if you are of a certain, you see that, and you immediately are free from it. You know what I mean? Because all that stuff is BS, right? It's the stuff that we try to grow up out of. And it is the stuff that some people might even call game. In other words, the confidence and independence, right? Whereby you don't need, I quickly saw that social dynamic. In other words, people grouping together in that warm blanket over there, turning against me, not really thinking, but it's part of
Mm-hmm.
like a whole identity thing. They feel they want to belong. Luckily, I'm kind of an introvert, so it's like it just kind of clicked for me. I'm like, oh, they're all fucking idiots. It's like,
Oh.
and I've always been that ever since like 5 years old. I've always been like, oh, just do your thing. These people are idiots.
That's actually funny when you're 5 and you come to the resounding conclusion that, oh, everybody around me is an idiot. That's funny. That's funny. But interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. I was curious about what the experience was like. I'm typing something. I'm trying to type and talk at the same time. But yeah, I was curious about that. I was curious about that. Red Sings the Blues in the building says, "Will Little Nas X? Well, Little Nas X was busting it for the devil and Kid Cudi butchered my favorite Navarra song in a dress. So I guess so. I think he's referring to the title, but he's referencing things I know very little about. I do understand that Little Nas X um, did a music video of which he did some unsavory things with the devil. I do understand that. I have not seen it. The other thing he referenced, I have no idea of. I would be a better content creator if I kept up with what the hell was going on in the world in pop culture. I would probably be able to do something similar to what O'Shea's doing with the celebrity junk, where he still does nice entertaining short videos. But no, I don't I can't follow that stuff like that. I just can't. No matter how much I try, I can't keep up. I cannot keep up. But shout out to Red Sings the Blues in the building with the super chat. Do appreciate you. Do appreciate you. Closing in on getting up there to 100 people in the building. Make sure y'all hit the like button. Let me double check to see if I have hit the like button. We got 91 people in the building, 31 on the likes. Come on now, when the audience is smaller, I know the people that's here actually rock with me as more of the core audience in the building. When it's not a trending topic, I know the core folks are here. So that means everybody should be hitting the like button. I should have 91 people and 91 likes. The haters don't come out when it's not a trending subject like this. So come on, quit bullying, quit playing me. Hit the like button. Hit the like button or the thumbs down. I don't care. But hit the like button, let people know that you're in the building. And we're about to get this thing started. I got some new Patreons that I need to shout out. Well, somebody came through on the Patreon end that I gotta acknowledge. Those are my newest ones right there. But somebody else just joined the Patreon. So shout out to him. I gotta go dig up the name and put it on the list, put his name in lights. But as far as the topic today, we were fishing for a topic, and you came up with you said is the West insane? Are we all insane? Or modern women insane? I decided to go the route of just the West, just the Western world, because I do like talking about that with you, somebody who's has your feet in both worlds. That's always a fun conversation to have there. So we'll go with is the Western world insane? Even though we might segue into are we all insane? Because I think everybody's crazy to some degree. But so what sparked this topic? What's on your mind as far as the notion, the concept is the West insane?
The real impetus there is a desire to take a large part of the conversation about what we call mentally okay, mentally balanced, mentally ill, emotionally not disturbed, undelusional, because I think we tend to accept delusions as just like, ha ha ha, hear what he said, hear what she said. It's delusion. No, that's crazy. It's disturbing. It's not cool,
Mm-hmm.
But to take it out of the hands of experts, if you will, right? And kind of just discuss it with normal human intuition. And I think that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem. And that's why the answer to the question for me is yes, the West is insane, right? Not that not everyone else isn't, but the West is not managing its insanity very well, is the point. Everyone's insane, but the West is not managing it very well. You could argue that the systems have broken down over time. But a big symptom, I would say, of the problem is the fact that we cannot even, it's almost like if you fell down and you hit your knee, right? Down on the bottom of the stair where it's like tiles and stuff. You're not going to be surprised that you're hurt, right? Mm-hmm. And people around you are not all of a sudden going to feel strange that you're hurt or that there's blood on the floor, right? People are not going to immediately like get weird or have a sense of stigma about the fact that you just busted your knee, right? We're not going to need to consult an expert as to the fact that, oh, maybe you should sit down. Maybe it's not surgery type busted, just the kind of stuff you have experience with. Okay, I should wait. Maybe you'll take this. Can I put some weight on it? In other words, we have a very good intuition for physical health, right? Mm-hmm. And we talk about it. But anything that just goes into the mental health space, all of a sudden it becomes an expert. And I would say that it's analogous to getting a paper cut and run into the emergency room. That's kind of how we are with mental health. getting a paper cut and everybody acting weird about it. Everyone is like, including you, like, why does it hurt? What's a paper cut? I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm crazy. Let me go talk to a therapist. Let's get some Paxil and Zoloft and red wine. So that was the impetus, so that we can, just as regular people, begin to develop an intuition about mental health, which I think is the problem. So in other words, yes, the West is insane, emotionally unstable, delusional, and mainly as a result of what I would call a reality malfunction. And so there's delusional, unstable, reality malfunction, and the impetus is what I described earlier.
Huh. I like how you put it. Reality malfunction. So you don't think, okay, well, let's examine the Western world. I mean, we got hospitals everywhere. People are being treated for all kinds of stuff. So when you say that we're not managing, I forgot how you worded that. We're not managing the problem
Wow,
very well.
insanity, yeah.
Yeah, we're not managing the insanity very well. But aren't we like throwing a lot of people? I hate to say it, throwing a lot of people in the crazy house, over medicating people. Like, so what exactly do you mean when you say we're not managing it very well? I mean, I think the West is trying. I just think that it's I don't know, perhaps a culture that just lets people run amok until it gets too far, perhaps.
Yeah, mental health here, I'm starting from the beginning. In other words, healthy, and then go from there, as opposed to the extreme, which is there is a diagnosable, generally recognizable, all in all cultures issue, right? Like
Uh-huh.
schizophrenia, for example. Everybody looks at it in a certain way, and I'm not talking about stigma and so on and so, but everyone has a treatment for it. Some places it's like
Mm-hmm.
you go over to the shaman, you're the shaman's apprentice, and the shamans, because they're kind of crazy too, and they do, they're all into mind altering states and stuff. They know how to handle a schizophrenic or two, right? It's like, yeah, you guys go up there in the woods and you do your thing.
The shaman knows how to handle a schizophrenic.
Point being, it's crazy people.
Uh-huh.
But when I say it that way, you got to understand that we have these layers of it. For me, anyways, I have these layers of interpretation. Well, we all have layers of interpretation, but you mentioned two salient ones, which is that I kind of half my life in Africa, half my life in America, and generally speaking, liking ideas. So I kind of look at ideas over here, look at ideas over there, try to that kind of a thing. So there's always a lens of crazy, which is a kind of a Western lens, to use that kind of a word, and that was the lens of, okay, whether you do psychedelics and get yourself in certain trances and do certain rituals, or you're somewhere in the range of, let's say, normal but hyper creative. You know those kinds of people, right?
Oh yeah.
All the way down to this button down accountant type. Point is, the schizophrenics and the hyper crazy, the hyper creative, maybe artistic, maybe stepping out, maybe taking some hallucinogens, maybe it's a shaman, maybe you do trance dances. Those people can get each other, especially because the shaman is the expert at that, right? So he knows what he's doing. He's not an idiot. He is your hyper creative. And I'm just talking about the time. I'm not talking about the particulars of what he does. That's all. I'm talking about the human being here. And yeah. So that human being is hyper creative, does some drugs, right? And is all about that kind of consciousness world, right? And he can deal with people that are off, at least he's not going to have any kind of strange, jarring kind of, anyways, that's how it is. There is that extreme, but that's not the extreme we're talking about. When you talk about that extreme, you talk about putting people in the nut house and so on and so forth. No, not really. I'm talking about on the level of, let's say, diet, right? In terms of physical health, right? In terms of physical health, I'm just talking about diet, working out, not being obese, that kind of thing. That's the analogy that I'm using here on mental health. That's the level we're at. We're not talking about schizophrenia. We're talking about, are you a fat slob, unhealthy, watching all kinds of, in other words, are you just kind of that low level chronic unhealthy and chronic stress, blah, blah, blah. And then in the mental health world, I would say that is the big problem that we're not managing. that other side, that's not really that many people, to be honest with you. It's the vast majority of people out here that are taking the Paxil and the Zoloft, and they're drinking 2 glasses of wine every day to go to sleep and all that kind of stuff, right? Maybe Bernard stepped out, but I will continue.
Wait. I'm back.
Oh, sorry.
No, I went on mute because I had to stand up and play with my camera, but I had the speaker on so I could hear everything that you were saying. And you closed out on the 2 glasses of wine.
Yeah, because I'm talking about the majority of people, because you were talking about some outliers in the bell curve in terms of actual diagnosable diseases. We use schizophrenia as an example. And I'm saying, no, let's talk about the vast mass majority of unhealthy people.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that person who needs 2 glasses of wine just to go to sleep, or the person who's who will tell you very confidently, I ain't no pothead, but they do gotta hit the joint every night before they can go to bed? That person has some mental issues that need to be treated, you would say, beyond that glass of wine and that weed to go to sleep.
So when we use this thing of this person that drank a glass of wine and such, there's always the danger when anyone uses this kind of construction to make it about a particular. We're talking about a conglomerate, right? It's not just that they drink. Like, they actually also, what is implied by that is there is something that is bothering them. Okay, They are a little delusional and whatever. They're trying to distract and anesthetize themselves. Okay, they're trying to numb something. Okay, all that stuff is in line. It's not just, a loopy guy that, maybe likes to smoke some pot sometimes when he writes songs. Who knows? Like whatever, right? Creative types. I always give excuse for my creative brothers. But point being, let's take it to that reality function aspect. Okay, because we've been talking about like the symptoms. The symptoms are there is an overprescription and diagnosis of things such as depression, people taking all these SSRIs, and all these other things that we know in terms of people just self-reporting that, and then you hear things that people say, delusional things. Let's say you take as a group, an aggregate group. Let's say you're educated. Let's say African-American women, you're educated or have the opportunity to enroll in school anyways, and to, you have you may be in one of the ones that's actually successful. You have a good job, so on and so forth. You can travel freely. You can kind of do what you want, from hot girl summer to whatever. You don't have good outcomes in relationships. So those are the realities, right? I'm talking about a reality malfunction. Reality. Check. Right? All these things is proof, like school check, education check, the job check, income check, bad relationship status check, right? But then there's a story side, and this is the malfunction thing. You have to take your story, because we all have to live in this story world, because we all have identity, and we've got to play that game. And we'll get more into it. But when there's a massive incongruency between the story and the reality, that's what we call delusion, right? So that same person would say, I'm oppressed. One particular type of person that we're picking out, right? Saying this particular person drinking wine at night also holds this in their head. These realities are the case. And then in their head, they say, I'm oppressed. There's misogyny and patriarchy. I feel stifled. I'm not protected. They say all these things to try to address one aspect of, it's the bad relationship kind of status that is kind of off there. But then they add all these things which don't check. Like, it's like, no, you got that education, you got this thing. Like, okay, that's not what it is, right? In other words, when you have a story, and people do this quite commonly, that is very far incongruent with reality, I would say, that is the highest level of kind of describing what I'm talking about here. But we can come down a little bit and even get more granular. And I would say it's things like, what is the equivalent of a bad mental diet, for example?
Ooh, a bad mental diet.
So
you need to answer that one, because I mean, we know go ahead.
It's more of it's a rhetorical question for both of us, right? The goal being, again, we got to have a conversation about mental health just the same way we can to have a conversation about physical health. You know what to do with a sprained leg. You know what to do when you bang your head here. You know what to do, so on and so forth. There is a we need to take in certain things, right? Mentally. We're social creatures, whether we like it or not. People like introverts like me like to always deny it. But we are social. We do enjoy the company of it. We need, in other words, to interact with other people. It's almost like a mental diet thing. In other words, there's this food we need to take in. It's kind of, let's call it communication of all kinds.
Mm-hmm.
Communication, media, ritual, festivals, whatever, watching Bernard Riley on YouTube, Sunday religiously, every Sunday, whatever it may be, but there is that thing that we need. There are bad ones though. There is the equivalent of fast food, crappy stuff in terms of this kind of in our communications, the kinds of people we're communicating with, the kinds of media that we're consuming. We tend not to give because if the religious person comes and says, "Oh, you shouldn't be listening to that kind of thing," the unsophisticated religious person, and then maybe you may have a theologian 7 layers higher up who wrote a book kind of breaking down exactly why, which basically comes from Plato, why certain things affect your mind in terms of what you consume, right? And in the West now, we tend to just ignore as bullshit, and we just pay lip service to the fact that there is such a thing as a bad mental diet.
Mm-hmm.
We may say, "Oh, don't look at social media too much or whatever," but we don't really emphasize it strong enough, like it's killing you type level of stuff. But it is, right? It is like we're all crazy about putting covering of our faces, right? But with certain other things, bad mental diet, lack of exercise, the unrecognition of what mental pain is. It's like falling down the steps, hitting your knee, and you're like, "Oh my god, why is it bleeding? Was my knee hurt? Like I don't get it." And everybody starts walking away, like, "Why?" Well, it goes later, that kind of thing. That's the situation in mental health right now. But to stick to the point of this bad mental diet, it is when you're consuming certain things, which you should know internally, just like if you eat some bad stuff, not bad. I mean, like bad for you, not like that. It may taste good and everything, but you know when you're doing things you should not be doing. You know when you had too much freaking pasta and then had the dessert to go with it, and you're slow and you're groggy, your blood. You know. So do you say? Or you're saying no? People don't know.
Oh no. That was
Yeah.
that was me agreeing. That was me
Yeah.
agreeing. Yeah,
Yes. So
I that was me pleading guilty.
yeah, exactly. Where is our intuition for when we're taking in a bad TV program, talked to somebody who likes to complain too much and gossip too much, or taking the equivalent of these in media, in terms of like gossip media, complaint media, fear mongering media, BS, time wasting stuff, right? These are bad for you mental diet wise, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we should begin to develop this kind of intuition. There's also uh pathogens, like again, we staying in the with the physical world analogy. There are viruses. So we talk about
Mm-hmm.
things you need to eat, and they are bad food and good food, but then there are things that you should need to keep out of yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and with the things you need to eat, just like the things you need to eat in the real life, the people that you surround yourself with and the kinds of associations you have affect all that stuff, right? So, your environment, which some people say, "Oh, this is a food desert. There's only fast food here." You can have certain environments too where it's only complaining, low level type conversations, fear mongering, and so on and so forth. And people too that only foster that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, definitely. Good man in the building. He says, "Here again for church, Pastor Bernard and guest Pastor Ike. Accept these offerings. Thank you very much. Appreciate that." Snuggles in the building says, "Enjoying the conversation between both of you, but I would like you all to include Zero because he has a unique perspective on certain topics." Very I don't know if perceptive or intuitive of you, Snuggles, but I was when me and Ike does this every Sunday. I was brainstorming bringing a third person in, and Zero was on the A list. Zero was on top of the A list. So yeah, you're on to something, Snuggles. You're definitely on to something. But but yeah, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Before we go forward with this is something that I do want to pick your brain on because you say something that I can. It's not really on the topic. You just kind of threw it in there when you said that you were an introvert. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you strike me as someone who could happily speak for a living, for a full-time living,
I
40
do
hours.
that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay. So yeah, I wasn't
I'm a kind of a salesperson too. Yeah.
that is now I'm gonna appear to be in contradiction
Mm-hmm.
because here I am, I do this show.
Mm-hmm.
But as an introvert, somehow this show doesn't get in the way of my introvertedness.
Mm-hmm.
It does only in the sense that I'm exhausted when I get off the air and just got to lay down and let my mind shut off. Uh, so in that sense, yes, being I can tell how being an introvert, um, doing what I'm doing here, talking for 3 hours, yes, it's taxing on me. But in the real world, being an introvert, I talk about sales a lot because it was an eye-opening experience for me when I sold cars for 6 months. And me being an introvert, it's not just that I preferred to be uh, alone and not speaking and not interacting with people. It wasn't that I just preferred it. It was just the better natural peaceful state for me, being around people, having to talk to people, having to understand people, having to essentially sell. I can tell that it was I had a really hard time. I had a
Mm-hmm.
really hard time doing it, and it negatively affected me on the job. It was so it blows me away that you're a salesman who on your downtime speaks on YouTube for hours at a time, but yet an introvert. Like how does that work?
Yeah, that's so you mentioned certain things there which are all true. Certain markers like energy, right?
Yeah,
In other words, it's about how you recharge. You don't recharge with people, you recharge alone,
yeah.
right? That is one of the most important aspects. But another important aspect is attention. In other words, introverts don't like to struggle for attention, right? So, if you're singing, you have the attention of the audience. You're teaching, you have the attention of the pupils or whatever. You're on YouTube, you have the attention of Omega Dreads, right? You're not you're not out there doing some social dance, trying to like get the attention of the group, trying to get your word in hedgewise. you know, we don't really like doing that. Now, the energy aspect of that is that it just seems tasking, and also to us, it kind of seems useless. You're like, why am I over here doing this dance? Like, I could be chilling somewhere.
Yeah.
So when you have attention as an introvert, it doesn't task you as much or tax you as much. It's
That's
not as
what it
taxing on you.
is.
So this is what it is. I'm performing. You're there to listen. Plus, introverts are often good performers, right? Takes a lot of time. You got to be willing to spend a lot of time inside to really get certain either speaking types performances or singing or dancing or whatever. Michael Jackson, Beyonce, Dr. Dre, Eddie Murphy, go on and on and on. All you have to do is watch interviews of these people and you realize these are they're introverts, right? These
Mhm.
are not like, that's not, Eddie Murphy's a chill guy. You know what I mean? Like all these people are kind of chill and you can just imagine because, of course, you got to sit there and write jokes. You got to sit there and write songs. The kind of person who writes jokes and writes songs have always been introspective, inward facing type people, but they're good performers. In other words, it's not that they're all good performers, but out of introverts, you can get some of the best performers and also some of the best salespeople because sales is a performance game. So what I do in order to overcome the whole introvertedness is I understand the game. In other words, I make sure that I get what the communication game is, how persuasion works, constantly studying it, and I'm very systematic with it. I understand it's not just some kind of just be there and be happy and slap their back. They're different kind of salespeople, though. What I am is more of a closer. A closer is more technical. A relationship builder, a prospector needs to do these other kinds of things. Closing, as you may know, because you sold for something like closing is more of a technical dance, right? And you can there's only so many ways you can pin them down and so many ways they can try to escape. But all that stuff on the top of the funnel, all that fluff stuff, that
I
part
can't
is
do
hard.
that. I can't do that at
Exactly.
all. And I
Let's
noticed
get to the
it.
point.
No, and I probably would have been better at it if I would have developed a get to the point closer mentality when it came to making the sale. That probably would have been what would have had me being better at it. But I was trying to develop the part that I naturally suck at, and that's the whole fluff part of it. Like I remember there were these people that I was trying to sell, and they were just cold. Just, I mean, yeah, I'm sure you've sold to somebody, and they just completely like, I don't want to be here. I mean, let's get this out the way. Just let's hurry up, do your little spiel, so I can tell you no, and I can walk out the door. I'm sure you've sold to people that that operated like that or had that whole disposition. And people like that, I was done. It was nothing I could do to make it work with that person. But that same group of people, it was two of them. After I got done with them, they went in with the sales manager because they were some people, they had bad credit, so it was like a special finance sales manager person that they had to go in there with. They went into his office, and I'm just sitting back at my little cubicle, and I'm listening, and they're just laughing and joking. And so he did something in there with them that broke through their barriers and got them to relax. And then they're just laughing and joking, and they're high-fiving, and they're having a good time. And and I was just like, wow, some people just naturally have that knack, that gift. That's why when it comes to that game conversation, I always reference that, like, some people just really just know how to connect with people, and that's an aspect of it when you're when you're a guy out there pursuing women, and the woman has her guard up and she ain't really interested, and she's made it clear, but you stay there, you keep talking, as you know, with sales, after you hear no, that's when the selling really starts. Some guys know how to keep going and then and penetrate the walls and the barriers. It's just a natural knack and gift that I didn't have. And
I
I
didn't have
saw
the natural knack and gift either. When you put it, because it's funny how we talk about natural knacks and gifts in the sense that it's almost like there are many tools. It's like, okay, I don't quite have this thing called a mattock, which is like an axe, but I have an axe. Or as you know, there are many different kinds of axes.
Yeah.
One particular axe, this guy, if selling is chopping down trees, he has the perfect chopping down tree axe. But I'm like, I have this other axe. If I adopt it, I can also chop down trees. I can actually get good with chopping down trees. It would be different, unorthodox, but that's kind of what I did in this case. So engineering, you have a very problem-solving mind in engineering, right? And you always know that things can be broken down into systems, even languages and story and so on and so forth. And then you could try to move the parts, and you can try to make those parts become variables. In other words, to try to generalize the parts so that the content can vary from spot to spot. If you think of objections, for example, how many possible kinds of objections could they say? And what do they actually mean, right? Like, well, I need to talk to my wife. Well, you know what? That's excellent. I think that's a very cogent decision, something to say. Like, but let me ask you, like, what's your wife's name? Or Mary? Like, if Mary was here right now, like, what would she say? Do you think she would like you immediately bring Mary into the conversation, for example? Now, me doing that is not just a spontaneous thing. It's a system that I know, right? Anything that they bring to me, I simply just walk past it. Like, in terms of, we're just talking about objections now, okay? Which is just one aspect of sales. So it's like you say, well, I even bring up objections such as, other than the fact you've never used me before, is there any reason why you would not consider, using my services for this? Other than the fact that, this is slightly more expensive, is there any other reason why you would not? Or they may say it's a little bit expensive. Then you say, well, is there any other reason? And then, because you might find that
that's game, Mike. That's good game right there.
Yeah, you're like,
go ahead.
Because what you will find is that objections are layered, right? They're not. People don't tell you exactly why they don't want to do something, because the reasons why they don't want to do something are emotional. In other words, the typical, most broad one is not wanting to change, right? They call it fear of change or just inertia, right? I don't want to change. I don't want to change my password on there. Yeah, your email service may be better, whatever. I like the color of Google Chrome or something like. I don't want to see any. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And then there is a fear of uncertainty about the future. I'm telling you, hey, Bernard, get this legal service. It's the best one for your business. And you're thinking, am I going to be able to have my business grow enough to justify this cost, right? Am I going to be able to use this legal service? Or the gym one is a good example. Yes, your gym is great, but I don't think I'll do my part. I don't think I'll show up. That's why I don't want to buy it, right? But they're not going to tell you that immediately. They'll say, let me think about it, or I'm not looking right now, or talking. In other words, that's why you just step past the initial objections until you get to one which feels more real, right? The real feeling ones are, it's just like there is a barrier to entry too that you got to lower for them. You got to be like, you know what? I'm the guy to make this whole legal, if we take that legal service aspect, this is something you're going to have to do, okay? With my system, it's easy. You just go to the app here, you just swipe here, you see all your signatures show up, DocuSign, boom, boom, done, okay? This is a decision you're going to have to make. I know you've been putting it off. In other words, you almost like start solving the problem for them of like bringing the future closer, making that barrier to entry easier. I'm your guy. If you do it later in the future, it's going to suck. Someone's going to ask you to fax things to them, blah, blah, blah. So again, all these are systematic. I'm not just pulling it out of my ass. It's not just kind of natural things. It's like I've diagrammed certain aspects. And that's why I'm good at the closing, because in closing is when you can do this dance. But on this other side, it's more persona and so on and so forth. And what I have to bring in that, speaking of the acts that I bring to that, is the performance acts. So it's not exactly the same thing that the natural talker has, but you can do a performance thing, knowing your strengths as an introvert. Number one is you're more trusted. If you know you're more trusted, you don't have to say much. As a matter of fact, you're trusted more because you don't say much, right? The guy that sits there in the back of the meeting doesn't talk much. You trust him more than the guy that just blah, 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 right?
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. Shout out to. Wait, no, I didn't have. Oh, I thought I had a super. Nope, I didn't have a super chat. No, I got to them all. Thank you, everybody who has made it in the building, and special shout out to my newest patron, Patria. Where we at? Thomas is the only name I have for the brother. Shout out to you. Thank you for coming on board. Your name is down there at the bottom. I definitely need a comment in there between you and Ron87. So there we go. Okay. Thank you for becoming a Patreon. And everybody, make sure you hit the like button. We got 130 people in the building. Hit that like button. So we were on to some things before I there we go. Introverts are blue-pilled cucks.
Hey,
you gotta
not a
love
crazy opinion.
You gotta love this space. But sometimes they are. Not being super social is a it can put you at a deficit, definitely. I like how you pointed that out, that when the introvert is more or less performing, he's okay with it. He doesn't like to be in a room. Let's just say it's just a crowded room and just the attention is all over and everywhere. And he has to try to get in that room and just, dap up everybody and try to be, that social guy. I hate that shit. I don't want to do it. I will just turn into just a lame guy in the corner. I will do that. But if everybody came to see you, then it's like, okay, I'm on stage, I'm performing. And so I guess that explains how I could be introverted and quiet in some social situations, but can speak fluently here. Because the people in the people that are here came to hear me speak. Okay, I'll speak. Put me in a crowded room where just the attention is just scattered all over the place. I'm not going to compete for the attention. And that's part of why, when I was out there chasing women, I guess it got, it's an exhausting task for an introvert. I think an introverted guy is more likely to end up in a relationship, because it's an exhausting task being out there chasing. I don't get it twisted. I like the new I got it.
Strange.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I was trying to keep it clean. I like the new Strange. It's just the pursuit of it is exhausting. That part, yeah, but so there's that. But no, interesting stuff. I've been trying to psychoanalyze myself being an introvert, but yeah. But no, good stuff there. Okay, where were we? We were on to something on the main topic.
I think we were just beginning, and I gave the impetus for vis-a-vis the topic, right? If we're going talking about the topic, right?
Yeah.
Then I just gave the impetus for having this conversation, which is wanting to be able to talk just as regular people about mental health in a way that does not require experts, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
think that the same way we can talk about diet, and I brought up the diet analogy,
Mm-hmm.
without needing nutritionists. When you start seeing things like nutritionists, that's when you know things are going awry. Same thing with therapists too. It's like when it just kind of becomes a normal part of the diet of middle class America or upper middle class America. Oh yeah, you go. Oh yeah, you're a therapist. Who's your therapist? I guess that's hey, how are you? Nice to meet you. Who's your therapist? Um, then there is an issue because again, it is akin to hitting your knee. Is it just akin to knowing? Oh, I didn't know that if I just ate sugar souffles every day, I will get fat and unhealthy. That's kind of how we are in the world of mental diet, mental exercise, mental injury, and so on and so forth. And we see the delusions. I gave an example of a delusion. I call it a reality break, okay, reality malfunction, because you have these stories about self-esteem, about blah, 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 that don't match, that are very incongruent with whatever's going on in reality. So let me put it in the starkest terms in which I can put. Let's describe this machine I'm talking about. The machine of you have reality and then you have a story. Let's understand that aspect about ourselves. So reality is a car hit your mom and she died.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You can say something happened and she died. Okay. The story, which completely changes it, is was your uncle in the car? He knew what he was doing, or supposedly whatever. All this, the plot thickens, as you say now. But in our experience, about 99% of our experience is in that story area. We don't just go, mom dead, move on, grocery store. We died because the whole saga begins, and the circumstances surrounding that particular event and the circumstances surrounding your whole life history with your mom and who you are and the identity and so on and so forth, and the blue ball she gave you when you were 5 years old. Everything is what now happens in that in this
Wait, hold
Storyville, if
on.
you will.
I'm not going. I drifted off. I woke up on who gave somebody blue balls at when they were 5 years
Oh
old.
no, 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 no. Oh,
It,
I don't
it,
mean blue. I mean, yeah, a blue ball or a green ball that your mom gave you as a gift when you were
okay, all
five
right,
years
okay.
old. But anyways, that whole story area, and then there's just the pure fact, objective, absolute reality of things that tend to happen. And then that's why I gave that example of education check, job check, money check, vacations check, but relationship status not so good, bad issue relationship. And then the Storyville area has these crazy stories that doesn't match anything, right? It's all about the misogyny and the oppression and the this and the that, and people, men do it too. We started off one of our series about men looking at women and expecting too much of them, or shall I say, expecting the wrong things of them.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
a delusion that also doesn't match up with reality. I think that, and it's also kind of prevalent in the West, where we moved away from nature, where people are close to nature, where you understand this is a woman's nature, it's a man's nature. It may be maybe not perfect, but at least we understand that there's some content to
Mm-hmm.
us, right? Then it's easier. You don't have to get lost. So in other words, the reality malfunction doesn't happen so much. The whole idea is this: make sure that Storyville area, okay, all your
Mm-hmm.
identity stuff, your history stuff, your you are you stuff, your self-esteem stuff, I us Rileys don't do this kind of thing, whatever it may be. This is Sparta, all that stuff. And make sure that it check with reality from time to time. Right? Because this thing can tend to start just drifting very far away. And that's why that person is drinking wine at night.
Mm. Like how you threw in the this is Sparta. It reminded me of the whole philosopher king aspect of the story, and this is who we are, and this or that. Yeah, I apply what we talked about in that conversation to a lot of different things. I see it so much now with groups of people trying to trying to tell their story in some type of way that builds a tradition and builds a who we are element to their existence. So I definitely like that. Now you change the way that I see things, change the way that I see the world, and there's my camera doing the little thing that it does. So so you're saying we don't have a good grip on our minds and how to align with reality.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't know. What
um,
do you think about that though? Like, what do you
uh,
think about just that general idea?
I got a few things floating around in my head. We don't have a good grip on our minds and how to align it with reality. It's a tough one. It's a tough one for this reason. For example, going back to the person who can't go to sleep at night if if they don't have a couple glasses of wine, they can't even go to sleep. Or if they can't hit the joint a few times, they can't go to sleep. Then there's the people that can't eat unless they have that same have that joint in the morning. I literally know a guy. He said I can't eat because I haven't had my breakfast yet. The joint is his breakfast. He literally he will go a whole day without eating if he don't got his weed. That just so so looking at people like that, you see, I don't have any cruxes or addictions like that, but mine. I say that, but then I'm going to admit mine is food.
Uh-huh.
I I get addicted. Addicted. Yeah, I guess I got to use that word because there's times that I want to eat when I'm not even hungry, but I just want to. I just love the taste of
Mhm.
something. So that's where it turns into a situation where I have to fight. I have to try to overcome my own mental saying, "Hey, you want this, you need this, you got to have this, you like the taste for this." Yes, you know that I think I talked to you before how over the last year or 2 years, Corona didn't help, but I've been I've been gaining weight and been fighting against it. So I got my own struggles with that one. I worked out last night though. Yesterday, I definitely got a workout in. I'm fighting it. I'm fighting it. But
That's good. Good.
but
I'm rooting for you.
yeah, oh no, I'm recommitted. I'm recommitted. Actually, I think it's going to help to start talking about it on the air, so that way my whole audience can hold me accountable. I think Alan Roger Curry mentioned that before when he talked about some of his health. I mean, I haven't got to the point of health issues, but when he started talking about some of his health issues, and his audience kept checking on him. Hey, have you doing this?
Mhm.
How's this going? You've been laying off the soda. You've been doing, so yeah, definitely. Definitely that's an aspect of it, but I'm still floating around with the concepts that you're throwing out there as far as us not having a good grip on our minds and how to align it with reality. Yes, we know that if we step on a nail, the nail, if it goes through our foot, we can see the problem. But yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it. I'll just say that, but I haven't got my ideas fully developed on that. You
Yeah,
said,
and so there's another aspect too, because we could take it to exercise. What I'm so mental exercise, therefore, right? Or because obviously you have a body, you are a body. Also, all this body mind thing, everything kind of happens in the physical world, in space, time, causality, reality, and it's all kind of one. But we're keeping this kind of neat analogy between, on the one side, physical health, which we have a kind of decent grip of, and then mental health, which we really don't have any grip of at all. So we go into the aspect of, let me talk about pathogens, for example, because we talked about diet. I say you need to eat food just like you need to interact socially with other people. You need to consume some kind of media. You need to be part of some kind of a social group with a story, blah, blah, blah. But there are things you don't need. In the physical world, it'll be like viruses, right? You
mm,
you block viruses out. So there are mind viruses, and for me, here's where I make a statement. So I get a little pedagogical. Like basically, I think that you need principles in order to keep away the mind viruses. You need principles because what principles do for you is you have this identity, okay? It's a story, okay? It has images, names, dates, ideas about who you are, like you talked about earlier. You know, the whole "this is Sparta" thing, "this is our people" thing. It's all in there in this kind of identity person, right? That you can carry around. It can be attacked. Okay, all those are open areas for it. But if you skinny it down to just principles, right? Then you take it less personally. Then these toxic, let's just use a silly word, toxic people and their toxic ideas, which are kind of like idea pathogens, which are like viruses that get stuck in your head and wind their way in there and destroy you.
Ike, stop being a snowflake.
Those things can't get a hold because your identity is mainly, in other words, the backbone of your identity is principles, and principles are impersonal. If it's not really a principle of I am I have valor, I am a brave person, and that's a principle. You have that principle. You're like, I am a brave person. If it's just,
Wait,
oh no,
hold
I'm
on, back up. Two sentences. That was my earpiece wasn't in. I was readjusting. Hold on. What did
okay.
you say?
So the last two sentences were saying that if the backbone of your principle of your identity, again, we have this identity, names, dates, your country, you were born here, you have memories, blah blah blah, all the ego, all that kind of stuff, right? So if the backbone of it though can be made sturdy and skinny, it cannot be attacked. That's the image I'm drawing here. It's literally that image. Now, how do you make it sturdy and skinny? You find the principles, because if, for example, you're part of a brave culture or whatever, if it's just the idea of bravery and not the principle of bravery that is there, it's just the idea because your great grandfather was brave and you're from Sparta or whatever, right? And that's what's kind of in that place versus the principle itself of bravery, which is very impersonal, right? When you're skinnying up that identity or reducing the surface area from where you could be attacked, because people can always attack that story of your stupid Sparta, but you could be like, that's not what it's about. It's about the principle of bravery. And I'm not going to get triggered, if you will, continuing with snowflake language, by the fact that so skinning your identity down is a key aspect here. Okay, and that's why I don't believe so much in too much of an emphasis on self-esteem, because I think it's just adding more. It's too much focus on the padding and all that nonsense. It's like, find a nice little core in the center with principles, and then you will notice not only are you stronger, but also you don't have all these openings for people attacking you in the story. And I would say that these are like idea pathogens, idea viruses, and the way to prevent it is by having principles.
Good stuff. I'm looking over the notes we got here. It said we need to know how to align our story, word, identity, history, ego with reality. That was more or less what you were kind of just touching on right there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is the same thing that I'm saying over again in different instances. You have a woman, you have a reality of what she is. You as a man have an expectation and a story and an identity tied up with it and all this kind of stuff. And then you expect certain things from her, but they're just not in touch with reality. This causes pain, consternation, confusion, right? All kinds of things. Same thing with the person who checks all those boxes in terms of education, socioeconomic status, and so on and so forth. But then because of one particular aspect of something that they're not satisfied with, general dissatisfaction, they paint this whole story of how they're very oppressed. And if you look at the reality, it doesn't match up with it. Many things like this go on with us. And the way to begin to get a hold, right, of this identity thing and force it into reality is to experience it. In other words, to not cover it up with food, alcohol, TV, social media, right? To not anesthetize, not numb yourself. To master, as I always say, your subjective consciousness, it begins with facing it, right? Just like when you bang your knee, when you fall down the stairs, you sit down and focus. Attention is now on the knee. What's going on with the knee? Can I move the knee? Where does it hurt? How is it, the same way.
What if when you say it's about dealing with it, it's about facing it, what if somebody doesn't realize that they're even having a problem. Somebody who overeats, or like I said, there's sometimes I'm not hungry, but I just really got a taste for something, and that thing that I got a taste for is a lot of damn calories. That's not good for me. Um, Sometimes you don't even realize you have a problem there, or it's not some problem that you're not facing, that you're not dealing with. You're just hungry and you want to eat. I think in the Western world, but definitely in modern times when everything is made so easy for us, where we throw away more food than I watched a documentary on how much food gets thrown away versus how many people starve to death in the world, and it damn near make you cry. So, but I don't even think we even realize we have the problem. Like, what about that aspect of it?
So that is a good question. I would say it is not really about having a problem. It is about having a body and a mind,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you have a body, you cannot ignore it. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
You have a psyche, you have a consciousness, you have things that bubble up in your feelings. Emotions is where we start to kind of separate out our identity from just body. So emotional internal sensations, butterflies in the stomach, heart palpitate, something like someone ripped out your chest. You know where we feel these things, the standing of the hair, the heating of the. There's certain locations that are kind of like these are the emotion centers, and they take different configurations, and they kind of tell you how you're feeling, right? You're like, okay, butterflies in the stomach in one context could be ooh nice. Butterflies in the stomach in another context could be horrible, right? But we know the differences and so on and so on. But basically, the idea is if you have a body, you don't have to wait till you have a problem for you to just notice that you have a body, right?
Mm-hmm.
For you to just be like, okay, well, how does it work? Is it better if I do sit like this or if I stand like that? Is it better if I eat all the time or not? What is the difference between hunger and thirst? Very little difference in terms of our brain. And that's why a lot of times, you probably know this, Bernard, but people are thirsty. They think they're hungry, right?
Mm.
Watch out for that one. Most of the times because what you do is this, okay? You just think in reality. Do you need calories right now? You just stop like Bernard Riley in Michigan, Ike over here in Silicon Valley. Do I actually need calories? And you're like,
Yeah.
no, I think I could go another week and be fine. You get what I'm saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's that reality which you need to kind of hold focused in your head, and it's true. And then the other aspect is, what is the feeling I'm feeling though that is making me want to eat? A lot of times it's thirst. You're dehydrated, and the body does not have a different signal for it. It feels the same, right? So just go start drinking water. And then the other thing is sit with that feeling. Now that you know it's not danger, oh, I'm going to die, I have to run out of this gas chamber. It's like, no, you got at least a week. Okay. Like, it's because it's true. It's like, no, man,
It's
like you
very
look at
true.
yourself, you look at like, I'm a healthy man in the West. Like, I don't think calories is my problem right now.
Yeah.
So there's something off here there's something else going on with me wanting to eat. And you may find it's actually just thirst, or it's tiredness, because when you're tired, your inhibitions go down and you want to eat. Your body wants to compensate for some kind of energy boost or so on and so forth. The same thing, just if you're sleepless, you will notice, like if you don't sleep a night before, the next day you tend to overeat. You need to sit with the feeling to see how that feeling feels, is my point, so that you can begin to line up all these stories you have with reality. The story about your hunger versus the reality of not needing calories, the reality of it might be thirst, the reality of it may be a way of me wanting to numb myself, the reality of maybe I'm drunk or lacking sleep, therefore my inhibitions are down, so I feel like I need to eat. All these things are not, you don't wait till you have problems. You have a body and you have a mind. You can think. The first thing you should pay attention to before you start going out in the world is, what is going on here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Like what they're saying in the chat. Snuggles says Bernard, Ike just found out the secret why people get fat in America. I think Ike just hit the money pit. I think you all should take this formula and run. Yeah, I'm definitely going to apply that. develop that mindset of nah, I'm just thirsty because I do know that I don't drink enough. I gotta drink more water. Put it like that. I do need to drink more water. I definitely need to do that, and that's probably why all my little cravings kick in, and then I'm having to wrestle with. Nah, I want to eat. I don't need to eat. I just want got a taste for something. Yeah, so I definitely need to make some changes. Need to make some changes. Need to get more
And as you
water.
know, it gets better in the sense that once you get used to, like, if you do a week of consistency with this practice of, okay, I'm going to drink water, I'm going to observe what it feels like, and blah 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 blah, and you do a week consistent of it, you're just going to roll into, now it's just going to become sub routinized. It's going to become automatic, right? You know, you're going to form that habit, if you will, and then you just go to the next level. It's like, and that's the beauty of it is, and I recommend some kind of a fast or some kind of something where you're disciplined for some time to watch your body with regards to the cravings for food and other things. Then it gets better, and then you can also get lost, like I said I did, and I'm recovering, right? I'm getting back into monk mode because I was out there having too much of a good time.
Yeah.
And now you're like, okay, come back again. It's hydration, cut down the calories, stay, get your exercise back in, watch your body, watch your mind, watch your breathing, deep breaths. So fixing this reality malfunction really has to do with aligning, as we said, your story land and all these beliefs and so on and so forth with reality. The main place to start is by, first of all, observing what is there, which is the reality part. And the strangeness of it, the question that you asked suggests a certain attitude that is kind of out there in the world. The attitude is, well, what's the problem, right? Why do I have to look there, right? The fact that people have that problem with looking at reality already kind of gives you an inkling, an idea of, oh, there's something wrong here. It's just another symptom. Symptoms such as we've already mentioned before, the prescriptions and the drinking of the wine and the diagnosis and the also stigma is also a symptom. And this also symptom of like, why should I master my subjective consciousness? Why should I understand how my body works? Why should I do any of that kind of stuff? It sounds like religious BS, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, on the other end, it sounds like psychobabble, right? So the West is generally caught in the middle, where because you need these religious BS to keep people, the masses again, right? Because some of us are going to be fine,
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is about a group. So when we say is the West insane, they're talking about, okay, some group things are broken. You killed God and the religious BS, but you haven't gone to a new plateau yet. Right? You haven't gotten to a new place where you can actually do those things, such as the focusing inwards, the things that force you, as we talked about religion, the things that force you to contend with experience and action. And that's what I define kind of religion to be. But we don't have that. And then we're kind of in the middle somewhere. And that's why the masses, the group, don't know what to do. Some of us will always figure our way out.
Mm-hmm. Michael Graham in the building with a super chat. Appreciate that. He says, Ike just let me into another time corridor into why I gained 30. Oh, 30. I thought that said 301, but no, 30 pounds. I was about to say, whoa, 30 pounds during Corona. Yeah, I understand. 30 pounds during Corona after 15 years of being a gym rat. Excuse me, doing meal prep. Yeah. Corona did some things to me, but I'm not going to blame Corona. I gained some weight. I mean, I've lost. I mean, I was always in shape, but then I got to a point where I don't know, over close to 30. I don't know if over 30, but somewhere in that range. I gained a lot of weight. Then I lost it and got in some of my best shape as an adult, and then it just slowly tick, 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 it just worked its way back on after a while. But my weight, I'll gain 20 pounds and be like, oh shoot, let me get rid of that, and boom, get rid of it, and then it'll come back. Get rid of it, it'll come back. Get rid of it. I'll maintain it for a year, then boom, then it'll go up. So it varies. It's a back and forth. So it's a consistency thing with me. It's about being consistent. It's about committing to a certain lifestyle and not going back. But but overall, yeah, good stuff. Thank you for that super chat, Michael Graham. Thank you for that super chat. Appreciate that. You know, Ike is definitely spitting some good stuff here. Snuggles in the building. He says, and here I thought I was doing it the American way with the grandma and grammar thing. Thank you for the correction. I do appreciate it. Who? Okay, thought he was referring to. I don't know. There must be a conversation in the chat. Somebody must have.
Mm. No sugar, no salt. That's a good one.
Yeah, I used to go. No sugar. What was it? It was. I used to go no sugar, no carbs. That's how I would lose weight. Now I don't. There, I've read that some people say that that's how you shouldn't go. But yeah, getting rid of carbs and getting rid of sugar was.
That's my way. That's my way. That's what I
Yeah,
do. And then you just turn up the fat. Like I use heavy cream, eat avocados, olive oil, all that kind of stuff, right? You just use that for your burning of your energy source, and you can eat all the steaks, all the ribeye steaks you want, and you should be good.
exactly. That was my theory. I was like, okay, no sugar, no carbs. Okay, I don't got to give up steak. I don't got to give up chicken. I don't got to give up what else was it? Was something else that I got to keep that I did that I really liked. But yeah, getting that sugar out of there. But oh man, bread, that's so hard. That's so
Yep.
hard.
These things are great. They're good, and in terms of like our cravings for them, and what you would notice is steak, or there's certain things that are more satisfying than others, and these processed carbs or just carbs in general, okay, tend not to be very satisfying. In other words, you can never have enough French fries. It's like there's, it's like, but if you look at the calories in it, you're like, oh crap, I should have like this much. But when you look at a steak, the calories in it versus how satisfying it, you never go like, oh, I can never have enough steak. You're like, at some point, you're like, I think I've had enough steak. I think I'm good. You actually feel like you don't like, oh, more like, but with donuts and French fries and pasta and bread, nah, there's no limit. You just want more, 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 more. And the microbes in your system, which is a big part of also your mental health, okay, are the things that crave those things. So in other words, your gut biome, if you will, like all the microorganisms, it's a huge mass of what you are is a community of different kinds of organisms, but they have their cravings too. In other words, the reason that sugar craving is so strong and the carb craving is so strong, especially that once you do some sugar, the next day you're craving potatoes, next day you're craving pasta, like it's because of the bacteria or whatever particular kind of microorganism, right, that you have fed in there. They send signals to your brain that they want more of that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the reality picture, the reason why I keep saying like, it's important is because maybe back in the day, some people called it a chakra thing. Maybe in some other traditions, they have other words for these different kinds of feelings. But people, whether it be from a superstitious point of view, a religious point of view, and the beginnings of some kind of medicine or psychology point of view, we need to have a clear view of what the reality is. As I said, you are thirsty, for example, or literally, the reason I'm feeling this way is because those microbes are waging war, right? It's like, there's no need to be surprised. They want what they want. But I know over here, I don't need calories. I know I'm good for about a week and I'll be fine.
I
If I have
love how you
water,
say that. I love how you say I'm good for a week. I don't need this.
I don't need the calories, but I'm having this feeling. What is this feeling? So you go down into reality even more and you say, well, oh, the microorganisms are sending those signals. In the gut, they want their juice, they want their fix, right? They're the ones that you're addicted. You know what I mean? So these kinds of views of things, in other words, looking at your subjective consciousness solves all kinds of problems. Okay. It is the bedrock. And whether you want to talk about game or whatever, or being comfortable with yourself, or not having heart disease because of chronic stress and having cortisol all over your body, thereby leading you to gain weight. All these things all have to do with you just kind of coming down, or can be solved primarily with you coming down and observing the reality of yourself. And then your story will adjust accordingly, right? So it's not working on the story part. Like, how do I organize my story to fit reality? It's like, look at the reality part. The story will kind of conform a little bit. Unless you're just absolutely 100% crazy, then you do that too.
Mm-hmm. All right. So looking through the notes here, it says build your intuition about your mind, consciousness. So you don't need an expert for everything. We definitely touched on that. The last thing that's in here is the stigma associated with mental health is a symptom of the lack of intuition about the mind and consciousness.
So just think about the stigma. We know what a hurt knee is, and that's why no one's going to be surprised. Like you're walking
Mm-hmm.
downstairs, you hit your knee down the stairs, blah blah blah, boom. Your friends are not going to be like, "Oh crap, what happened?" They're going to expect you to be hurt. They're going to expect you to sit down. They're going to expect you to take your time with it. We don't. We don't have a good working, either working theory or ability or intuition or capacity for the whole mental space, the mind space, the spirit space, the consciousness space. So that if you were to be mentally hurt, which to me is the equivalent of falling down the stairs and hitting your knee, you are a little surprised. You don't really know what to do with it. The people around you don't know how to act either,
Mm-hmm.
right? In other cultures, as I said, or generally speaking, just in human culture, we develop ways to address these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even when people go to war and they come back, there is a decompression process, right? Through all these rituals. I think in some Scandinavian country, like they in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Viking type stuff. They when they come, there's like a ritual every day where they put them in a tub of water, and it's kind of symbolic. It's like they're cooling them off of the war, and they do it for several days. Like, but the fact that look, think about this: you go to war, okay, you come back home, and the whole community is waiting for you, ready to do the post-war ritual. You know what I
Right.
mean? They do this thing for a week, blah blah blah. They do all these things. Versus you go to war, you come back home, and you just land in Denver airport, and no one is paying attention to anything. Everyone acts like they don't know what happened. You go into some isolation somewhere. No one really knows what happened. Deals with the fact that your consciousness just got fucked, right? Yeah. Sorry for the cussing. One is
Yeah.
nice right there in the middle of it.
Yeah, no, we good.
So what will you in which experience you can just intuit and understand that you'll have a better experience and a much more chance of recovery in society number one, where you came home and everybody was waiting to do the post-war ritual. Like, this is what you do. You put them in the tub, you do this, da, 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 da. This is how you bring the warrior back in. Everyone understands what's going on. They're not freaking out about it. You know what I mean? Versus
Mm-hmm.
just you in isolation.
Right on.
I don't
Right
know what your
on.
thoughts are about, because you may have some preferences. You may not want to people doing the post-war ritual on you. You're like, no.
Oh, hey, what is the typical post-war ritual? What is
No, I just described one where it's
what's
like,
the,
they cool this person off.
what's the
But basically, but even it doesn't matter, because a lot of times it's more
no, I
like
figure different
ceremonies
place.
and prayers. Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. No, I was saying different places have different post-war post-war rituals. That's what I'm saying. It
No, don't worry.
depends. It depends what's the post-war
Don't worry.
ritual.
Nothing like nothing. You will not be violated in any way.
Yeah, that's what I had to. I get weirded out when people start talking about rituals. I'm not the ritual guy.
Yeah, but you get the point.
I definitely understand. The link is in the chat. Anybody can come on up and chop it up. Definitely, if you got some questions about anything that me and Ike discussed here today, I think a lot of good information was put on the table. So the link is in the chat. The link is in the chat. Shout out JR in the building. Link is in the chat. No, definitely like the discussion. A lot of good things. A lot of good things were said. I've been as far as I mean, I recently gave up French fries. I did do that. It's funny because it was funny that you mentioned French fries. I use like you can never have too many. I've recently realized that was part of the problem, and I'm noticing just a difference. Just taking a small step. I had to just take a small step. Let me just cut fries out of the diet. I was just doing that too much. Just a burger and a fry is just so just fast, quick, and easy. It's just such a go-to, and it tastes so good together. Just man. But so yeah, I recently cut that out of the diet, and I've been telling myself a concept. I may probably heard this on your show. I probably heard you say something about. Well, I've heard a lot of people say something along the lines of, you got conquering mind and body. Like you have to. I was like, I almost just went the full route. I mean, it's late in the show. I think I already got a yellow yellow dollar sign on this. They gave me a yellow dollar sign before I even said two words. They just made it a yellow dollar sign. But but I almost had to like cuss myself out, like you just being a bitch ass nigga if you can't win that fight with your body telling you need to go and do this, and you just can't say no. Like that, I almost had to cuss myself out like that to get to the point to where I'm just not gonna lose this fight every day with whatever is going on the inside of me saying, hey man, you need to go do this because it tastes good. Okay, I'm gonna go do it. I know it's bad for me, but I'm just gonna go do it because you told me to. It's like I had to get myself. I had to psych myself out of it. And like, what are ways, or do you relate or understand that, or you just been doing it on autopilot for so long? But do you understand the whole
Nah.
concept of having to psych yourself out of, or just or win the argument with yourself in order to do what you need to do?
So, being the engineer that I am, engineers are lazy, so we make things simple. Okay, we're not gonna be alpha in our way through everything, so we're gonna have a checklist. Basically, I don't make whenever I have this craving to take any kind of to consume something, make a decision that I know is kind of not the best for me. But what I do is before I make that decision, I run through a certain checklist. The number one thing is, how hydrated are you? Okay. In other words, I have to get myself to peak hydration, which usually takes about an hour, meaning that decision already has been put off for an hour. It is typically the case. And it's almost like 90% of the time, 9 times out of 10, this thing coming up in my head plus dehydration go hand in hand. It's so highly correlated that it's kind of like, okay, so I'm just like, okay, cool. So first, before I go do this silly thing, I'm going to make sure I'm hydrated. So one cup or one thing done, I open the next one, right? Because it takes about an hour. You're like, okay, I'm in the West Coast, so we started at 6 a.m. So I've started my hydration routine, right? And then after that, I'm like, how's the blood flow? In other words, I need to do some push-ups, some stretch, some yoga, I need to kind of just agitate the body, shake the body up a little bit. You know that feeling, right? When you're like, you're juiced up, you're ready to go. The back of your neck is hot, but not out of anger, out of just like, yeah, the blood is flowing. It's like you just came back from a great run, and you're the kind of person that gets runner's high. So that's the second thing. Number one, hydration. Then number two, check a physical thing. Number three is the meditation thing. In other words, how conscious am I, right? And that's a simple thing in the sense of you check your concentration, right? You take a deep breath to see how your body feels and what's going on in your mind. Can you clearly see it, or is it numb, right? Blah, blah, blah. And then if I've done all that, this is probably like an hour and a half in now, and I still want to do usually it reduces the chances that I do the thing by like 80%. So there's still a 20% chance that I still go do the thing. But when I do that thing, I go have that cheesecake anyways after going through this routine. There's no guilt associated with it. It's like there's no guilt. There's no whatever later going back and lament. No, and I don't have any beef or struggle with myself while I'm doing it. I consciously go there to go indulge because I know that I've gone through my checklist, and the checklist kind of helps me eliminate bad decisions. As I said, it reduces it from like 80% chance to more like a 20% chance of me doing the bad thing. So that's my system. Whenever you're having cravings, check your hydration, physical stuff, and then note in the mental space, also when I was talking about meditation, is note whether you've slept or not. If you slept well, take a note of that. If you didn't sleep well, understand that, oh, this is a manifestation of lack of sleep. Lack of sleep reduces your inhibitions and gives you certain weird cravings to do certain bad things. That's just what it does.
Man, that was good. That was definitely good stuff. Put it off for an hour. Make sure you're hydrated. I had to start drinking some water right when you were saying that, because I'm ready to go pig out as soon as I get off this air. So let me let me go ahead and hydrate to see if that changes things.
Yeah, that's one of my principles too. Is that before you eat, drink water. Um, it it makes sense on so many levels. I mean, the whole thing about hydration, anyways, is because you is it 70% or over 70% of you is water, so it should be obvious why we're saying what we're saying. And then the minute you start to, if you respect your body enough to start doing that, it's going to teach you many things. You're going to learn many things about the relationship between dehydration and many bad feelings, behaviors, mood swings, so on and so forth. And then you're going to understand that it is the root. It is not a surprise. It is the base of the pyramid. You are 70% water. If water is off, many things are off. So rather than, if your car, right, your car is acting a little shaky or whatever, or whatever is not happening with it, and something's not quite right, rather than just go, I'm going to go get a engine rocket and strap it to the back of the car, which is what we tend to do. We go like, I'm going to go take coffee. I'm going to take this drug. I'm going to drink this alcohol. I'm going to do something, right? Rather than just stopping and be like, okay, well, first of all, let me check the water gauge, the oil gauge, the fuel gauge. Is the air filter right? Right? That kind of a thing. It's like, no, immediately we just go and start strapping a rocket engine to the back of the car, put NOS in there, and then boost. Like, it's like, no, wait. The beginning is the water. Your physical system in this physical world. You're just like your car, you idiot. Why are you thinking you're different? Right? So check the basic systems. That's where things start from. That's the foundation. It's not magic. It's not woo. And you're not going to deceive or story your way out of it by doing these fake things, which are not in alignment with reality. And that's why we're all insane.
Uh-huh. Circled it back to the title. I like that.
You know how we do.
That was good. That was good. You say, you know how we do. Speaking of, well, we talked earlier about what you do when you mentioned that you were a salesman. I see this question floating around a lot. You speak in general terms about what you do, but what exactly do you do? If you don't mind talking about that, what is it that you're selling? What product or service does Ike sell?
So I have an engineering company called Prometheus Engineering, right?
Okay.
In there, I'm selling engineering services. Mainly
Nobody knows what that means. It's like you're selling engineering services.
Yeah, but
Go ahead.
I'm serving and performing these engineering services, just like if I were to say accounting services or medical services.
Mhm.
And then I will have to qualify by saying that this is structural engineering we're talking about, right?
Mhm.
And mainly having to do with earthquakes and earthquake resistance, seismic. That's why I'm in the West Coast. I'm licensed in California, Washington, Oregon, seismic country, earthquake country, right? So people, industrial facilities, which is where these people I typically work for, you need to build a refinery, right? You need to build a refinery. It's got these generators, massive tanks, all these things going on, right? You need a structural engineer to make sure that these things work, they stay in place, and after an earthquake, they're able to, the structures are able to survive, the people are able to escape. There are different levels of kind of design there. So builders of all kinds need a structural engineer to do that work, do the calculations, submit it to authorities having jurisdictions, right? So you stamp it. Your stamp means that you're kind of responsible if something bad happens with that structure, right? It has to be approved by your authorities having jurisdiction. It could be the state, the county, whatever particular authority is overseeing the safety requirements of this particular structure being built, right? So that's where I come in. I sell that service. My product is, drawings and calculations and know-how regarding how things go together, how to seismically restrain them, so on and so forth. So I need to sell that service, right? Because starting my company, you are the salesman and the one engineer and marketing department and the accounting department and the billing. You're everything, right?
You need to hire more employees. You're doing too many jobs, Ike.
Yeah, no, I mean, I that's why I said, when you start out, but later on, the main part of your job is you're still almost like the chief salesman, especially if now different people, different business starters of some kind. Plus, I also have a sales job, okay, for a construction manufacturing company. You know what I mean? And the sales job, you're like, you can't really call it a 9 to 5 because selling, I'm just out here in the West Coast. It's like, here, Ike, here's a credit card with expenses. Sell this much and we give you this much, right? you get the idea. So obviously
Wait, hold
I'm
on.
free to,
Back up, and say that again because I was so thrown off by that super chat when someone is asking how can you extend your post nut clarity that I didn't hear anything that you said because I was sitting
yeah,
there.
that is a good thing because that's kind of what I was searching for post nut clarity when I was talking about the fact that I go through a checklist, right? That's what
Yeah,
you like. It almost came to mind. It's like you're trying to do something stupid and you're trying to, anyways. But we'll address
but
that.
back up a little bit. That may be a topic for a whole nother for a whole nother show. Extending post nut clarity. Thank you, Daryl L. I think you gave us something right there. Extending post nut clarity. That's a good one. But and by the way,
So
while we got a little break in the action, Dr. Thunder in the building with the super chat says, "Hello, gents, paying my respects." Absolutely. Make sure that on the holy shit, that's right around the corner on the 14th. I will be on Dr. Thunder's show. So make sure you get on over there. I'm gonna start dropping. Hey, drop your link. Go ahead and drop your links right now, Dr. Thunder. You can start preemptively dropping your links for when me and you definitely get together on your show. But Daryl L the second, thank you for that super chat. We're gonna definitely do some work on this one. How to extend post nut clarity. But go ahead back up before we even touch on that. Back up to what you were saying because I missed something because I was having a moment. So go ahead.
basically, I was saying, okay, so you got the engineering company part, you got the part that you got to be a salesperson to be able to expand. Any kind of entrepreneurship starts with the sales aspect, and then when you have employees, which I do now, you still are chief salesperson if that is your particular skill set that you have.
Yeah.
So it's like I know that especially amongst engineers, I have better communication skills than most, especially amongst engineers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Presenting yourself, not being that freaking not being the lame over there in the corner, right?
Yeah.
So so I make sure I do that. But then I was mentioning that also because I like that money and also because I like experience and also because I like to maximize certain things and certain opportunities. I have a job with a construction manufacturing. It's called Hilti, right? It's the name of the company. They make construction equipment, right? There's robots that put in anchors in the concrete for you to whatever, all these things, right? And in that job, it's a sales job, so I'm free to go kill the deer and get my piece, right? In the West Coast, same thing, the 3 states, right? So I sell in California, Washington, and Oregon, flying back and forth there. And they go hand in hand because I'm selling engineering services, okay, to people whom also are in the construction business, right? These things feed each other as in ways that you can imagine.
Interesting. There's like more questions at the tip of my tongue, but I can't quite formulate them
Yeah,
right
so
now.
someone
But
was
that,
mentioning
but it's
drafting. Yeah, there's a lot of drafting too involved in the job. I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, that was just something that I never even thought about that someone needed to sell. That there has to be some special type of structural design in a state. I won't say country, but in a state where there's lots of earthquakes and yeah. So ultimately, you're basically you're laying out the foundation, the structure, for I guess someone building new buildings, so to speak. I take it they would have to be building a new building, and they need the structure and the foundation to be just so to where it decreases the probability that the earthquake will completely bring their building to the ground to
Yeah,
bring down their building. That's basically what it is.
exactly right. But here's another thing. You mentioned the building, which is like the core and the shell, the building itself,
Mm-hmm.
foundation and structure, just so, right? But what tends to also kill people is the HVAC unit, right? That falls through the ceiling, lighting, signage, all kinds of architectural, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing equipment, especially in bigger buildings where these things tend to be bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those things also kill you. Those things also shake in earthquakes, get loose and fall off. They also have dynamic properties. In other words, they vibrate in certain ways. We got to figure out what forces go to them and how they need to be braced for the earthquake themselves. So not just the core and shell, but the innards of the building as well. Actually, the innards are more likely to kill you. So we do it all.
You got to have do you have to have an understanding of tectonic plates and how they shift and all of that to understand exactly how to make a building that I guess doesn't shake as much during an earthquake? Like, it's kind of a weird question, but
No, it's not a weird question at all. So
oh,
basically, you're asking, well, obviously this shaking comes from somewhere,
mm-hmm.
right? And shaking in the middle of San Francisco is different from shaking in Oregon, let's say. Why is it different? Think about it. Well, it's got to be something to do with the type of rock, right? The type of fault, right? Is it a fault that's going up and down like this, or is it a sideways slip fault? How deep is the fault, right? How about the soil around it? Right? You get what I'm saying? It's like you can intuitively kind of just see, okay, why would the shaking here be different to shake? We have very good mechanical intuition, right? We know about how things vibrate and tuning forks and this and that and what will dampen it and so on and so forth. So it's the same thing going on, but just in a large scale, right? So you need to understand that, and you need to understand that these numbers that you're looking for, characteristics, okay, that describe the difference in the vibratory behavior between San Francisco and Oregon, these things have been mapped out, kind of understood. And then you take certain numbers, which represents this behavior, you apply to the certain types of buildings, which also behave in a certain way, right? You know what I mean? Because not everything shakes the same, right?
Yeah.
So it depends on the stiff. If you think of the lollipop analogy, the stiffness of the stick and then the mass on top, it will give you the tune that they'll the heart the not the frequency that it'll vibrate in. It's almost like a tuning fork, right? The shape of it, the thickness of it, the length of it determines how it vibrates. So not only do you have to understand the what attenuates and not, I'm using these crazy talk. Let me take it back. Let me take it back. Not only you have to understand how the ground shakes, you also have to understand how the building shakes so that you can understand how you're going to restrain it. But obviously, with all things having to fit a budget, you don't have infinite amount of money. The owner, the builder, right? So they have a budget, right? If you throw infinite amount of money at something, you can build something really crazy, right? So the economic aspect too is important. Is why I just added that last part.
Interesting stuff. Now, without giving away too much of the previous, I mean, I may reach out to Zero. I may get Zero in on some of this. Give us the short version of that.
Yeah, I'll give you the short version and feel all the little subtle things that are pushing you to do certain, wanting you to go certain ways, right? Whether it be coming from your loins or your chest or your head, also images and talk in your head telling you peace leaf, peace leaf, peace leaf, or whatever. I don't know how it happens, but basically, it is about being clear, having that window open, and you can do it with certain meditative practices. And it's this simple and this intuitive. In other words, it's not magic, it's not woo-woo. It's you going in there and making sure you see the body. And how do you see the body? You can feel the body. And that's why you use breathing exercise. Because when you stop and you say, you can't help but feel your torso, right? Most of the action we're talking about is torso action. You don't feel sad in your toe, right?
Right.
You feel sad in the chest area and the body. That's why you need to get engaged with that. And that breathing forces you to feel that and blah, blah, blah. Then you can kind of control it. You can control your heart rate through your breath. All these things are very simple, but you need discipline to practice them. So we can talk about extending that post-nut clarity next time.
Yes, I think something went wrong. Well, now they're saying it's back. We were bugging for a while. Things were it went off the fritz. It went off the tracks.
Oh.
Something happened, but they saying the stream was buffering a lot, and that's why you may see a drop in people. No, it dropped drastically. Now people are coming back. I had to refresh my my YouTube, but we were almost about to wrap it up anyway. I did have the link in the chat if anybody wanted to come up, but nobody came up. But it's good. I'm glad we segued into the topic for the the next Sunday service. So that'll be good. But that's pretty much it. We could wrap it up and call it right there. And I gotta get off this air and try not to go pig out on a bunch of unhealthy food. After
Or
all this soda, I could probably here we go. My favorite, Mountain Dew Zero. I take it you have a disdain for those type of products, or no?
I do. They don't feel the same. You don't feel clean. This is compared to water, and you don't get the same kind of there's a fluid feeling in the body, there's a clearness in the body, there's a literal feeling of your blood not turning into toothpaste that just drinking water gives you, that adding anything else, as long without diluting it heavily with water, does not give you. And you cannot escape that fact. You're 70% water, so you cannot escape it. And it also inculcates a bad habit, this bad habit of um putting unneeded ornamentation on things. Why do you need to put some flavor or sweetness on your water?
What
It is
about
not a good habit.
what about the Crystal Light, like the little stuff you squirt in the water and shake it up? Just add a little flavor. Come on, Ike,
The
work,
less, the
Ike,
better.
work.
Yeah. So I you got to start from somewhere. I 100% agree. So even if you're doing the Mountain Dew, if you know that you're making a progression towards a place where
Okay.
it's going to be mainly water, then 100% take whatever steps you got to take. But overall, the reasons why I don't do it is because you're cultivating that habit, and it's a bad habit in many spheres. Rather
Mhm.
than offering your way through stuff, you want to kind of cover it up a little bit. It leads to trouble.
All right. Clue in the building with the super chat says Fat Acceptance Federation is stopping the stream. Yep. Yep. Yeah, something is going wrong. They said the buffering came back. They said the buffering came back. We was about to get off the air anyway. I like to thank if y'all can hear me, I like to thank everybody who came through and participated in the stream today. This was great. We'll be back next Sunday. Make sure you tune in for the Sunday services as we do. It was always the original plan to have a third person in here, sort of like what O'Shea and LAR does with the Brother Pill. They normally have a third person. Zero was recommended by Snuggles. We might reach out to Zero. We'll see. We'll see. But all right, everybody. Thanks, and we are out of here. Peace. Assuming that they heard that and it wasn't buffering.